Thank you all for joining us this afternoon for our second 2020-2021 school year webinar. Today we have with us Marisa Lightsey, who is our Executive Director of College and Career Readiness at the State Department. She is going to speak to you about ICAP. So if you're just now joining us and haven't had a chance, please put your name and your program name in the chat or district so we have a very good representation of the state on this call today. So I'm excited about that. If you have any questions for Marisa, put them in the chat. Leslie and I will be monitoring that, and we will make sure that she's helping her out with that. She's very adept at this, so she will probably monitor her own chat, but we want to make sure your questions get answered. We do want to express anybody who was affected by the ice storm and still going through things with your insurance or whatever it is, you are in our thoughts, and we are praying and wanting everything to be okay with you and your families. So as you are going through that, so we know this is a tough time, and the ice storm was just like, okay, yeah, it's 2020 for sure. So we appreciate you joining us. I also have Leslie Frazier. Leslie, want to say, hey, some of your schools are on the call. She is our field specialist. You want to unmute?
You think I'd have this figured out by now. I'm Leslie Frazier, and I am the field specialist that will take care of the southern part of the state. And I've been out visiting some few schools, and I've enjoyed what I've seen so far. Thanks for being here today.
Awesome. And Missy is on the road, so if she can pull over and pop in, she will. Just trying to get some time made up from the ice storm last week, so trying to recover some ground that was lost in visiting some school sites. So at this time, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Petra Woodard. I'm the Executive Director of Academic Counseling and Alternative Education. And so I work with both of these groups as part of the College and Career Readiness team. The third part of our wheel is Chelsea Hunt. So she is the Executive Director of Work-Based Learning and Industry Engagement. Marisa is here today to speak about ICAP, and we will have Chelsea on later in the year. So again, please put your name and school in the chat and any questions. And Marisa, I will be turning it over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. So before we get started, I do want to say that I know that some of you might be joining from a cell phone. We do have an activity today that will require you to use some links a little bit. So if you are not on a device, if you're close to a device and you want to participate, it's a little bit further in the presentation. So I just wanted to let you all know. So I am going to switch over now to our presentation. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. So if someone can just confirm that they can see the presentation.
We got you, Marisa.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So as Petra mentioned, my name is Marisa Lightsey. I'm the Executive Director for College and Career Readiness here at the State Department of Education. So under my wheelhouse, I do all things ICAP. I get to work with Petra Woodard and Chelsea Hunt, as well as we are working to really build a framework for ICAP and really college and career readiness throughout the state. So the way our meeting will go today is we're going to talk a little bit about an overview for ICAP. Obviously, a few things that have changed, some updates, those mostly being some new resources that we have available. And then we will also go through several of our virtual resources more specifically, and then we'll have a little bit of a conversation about how to serve many of our students, but based on where they are, some of them distance learning, some of them in person, and some of them in different walks of life. So we'll kind of go through this overview first. And really, so for those of you who are new to ICAP, ICAP stands for Individual Career and Academic Planning. And so really ICAP is meant for a multi-year process. So not just something that we do in one sitting, one time, during their first years of high school, but really something that we want to provide an experience over their years. And so by law, the ICAP must begin by ninth grade and must be completed before they graduate high school. However, ICAP is available for students as young as the sixth grade. And so some components that are involved in ICAP is to explore careers, explore academic opportunities, and post-secondary opportunities as well. One of the most important things for ICAP is just to remember that it does start with the family and the student. So it starts with the student and family driven and teacher supported as well. So really an important process that really introduces students to the process of connecting their interests and skills to their future opportunities. So we get a lot of questions when we first started the conversation about ICAP is why are you doing this work? Why is K-12 really involved in this? And so in order to answer that question, you have to look at where we are as a state. Currently, approximately 46 adults have a high school diploma or less. More than 77% of our jobs are projected by 2025 to require education beyond high school. And currently more than 50% of our K-12 students are low socioeconomic status. So we have a lot of students who represent a vulnerable population who are really going to need education beyond high school to gain a profession, a position that's going to be able to set them up for their futures. So for that, ICAP was really designed to have just a few requirements that were meant to really begin the conversations. And I say begin the conversations because we know that these are just opportunities that will lead to more questions from students. We want students to take college and career interest surveys, every single year. And so using some of the online tools, and we'll talk about those a little bit later in the presentation, students will have an opportunity to log in and take college or career interest assessments every year, and there'll be a different assessment available to learn about themselves and learn about opportunities that are made available to them. They will also have an opportunity to create and update their post-secondary goals as well. So some of those goals meaning careers as an engineer or a career as a banker or a mechanic. And then they will go in every year and start to update what steps they have taken to accomplish that particular goal. They will list an intentional sequence of their courses that they take every year. This gives students an opportunity to start to examine their courses that they are taking while they are in high school that are going to set them up for life after high school. So many times students will look at just a graduation checklist and the whole point is just to graduate. So I'm just going to take the minimum that's required and that's it. And they may do those things without really thinking about the courses that they're taking now that would set them up for any post-secondary opportunities, whether it be college or career tech or career training or even military. And so the idea is that they would use this process through ICAP to set them up for their opportunities after high school and stop just thinking of high school as the endpoint, but really rather a checkpoint. In those intentional sequence of courses, they will include their academic progress so they can start to take stock of the grades that they've received in each of their courses they've completed. They will also upload any scores on college and career ready assessment. So those being maybe any ACT or SATs or pre-SATs that they have taken during their course of high school years, as well as any other assessments. And then of course, they will have at least one experience in service learning and or work environment activities. And so that gives students an opportunity to really test their theories. So it says you're interested in going on and being a dentist, but then you get an opportunity to job shadow a dentist or participate in some sort of apprenticeship and learn that you either hate it and you've saved yourself a lot of time or money, or you love it. And it really confirms your choices moving forward. So giving students an opportunity to have a well-rounded career development experience before they graduate high school. So I like to include a couple of these components as well. These are taken from the College Board National Office for School Counselor Advocacy. And I included the link here. So if you're interested in seeing the full report, you can click that here. And so what they've put together are 8 components of college and career ready counseling. And so I like this report because it does show much more of a systematic approach to college and career counseling instead of just that checkpoint that we were talking about. So the ICAP really is something that should be evidence that really good college and career advising has taken place. And so you sort of want to start with this conversation within the building so that you can have quality ICAPs leaving the building. And so the first deal is your college aspiration. So students having a goal. And so you'll notice that there are a lot of similarities in the ICAP components that we listed before, but this is a little bit more fleshed out that explains sort of how that would look inside of a school building. You have academic planning for college career readiness, enrichment or extracurricular engagement, and then exploration. So of course, those exploration are the many tours that you might take for a college tour, a college visit, whether it be virtual or in person, or any of the Careertech exploration days that a student may participate in. What's really exciting about this list is that you may see a lot of things that you're already doing and that a lot of our schools are already putting together. So college career assessments, of course, that is a part of our ICAP process. College affordability planning. We do have, of course, the PFL course that students take where they go through and start to learn about FAFSA and the process of completing a FAFSA. College and career admissions processes is something that's also available through many of the online tools, and we'll show that in a moment. And then, of course, the transition from high school graduation to college enrollment. And so these are really just 8 main components that if you were to make sure that this was a part of your ICAP plan or your college and career readiness plan in your building, that you might yield some really quality ICAP experiences for your students. So a few indicators that are taken again from that report that are also available here in the College and Career Readiness Success Center. This is a national organization that works hand in hand with the National College Board. And they've put together several reports, one of which where I listed a few of their indicators here, that could be something to start to measure within your schools and within your students. You'll notice that many of these indicators are already available on our school report card. So it could be something to already measure and take stock of. So that being, less than 10% absences, on track graduation indicators, percentage of schools in FAFSA, completing Oklahoma's Promise, and then of course some post-secondary outcomes as well and performance on assessments or exams. And so a couple of things here that we don't particularly track as a school or as a state, but could be something that you may think about in the future if you're interested in starting to take track or keep track, of how successful your students are through their ICAP experiences. We do have an ICAP toolkit, and so I will show that in a little bit later when we get to resources, but I always like to try to call this space out because I think this is a space that when we're reading the toolkit, we're going through what are the processes, what are the tools that I need to do and kind of check off our box. And so our ICAP evaluation process, I think, is just as important as the other spaces in our ICAP toolkit because it does give you an opportunity, again, to see how successful your ICAP process is for students. And remembering, of course, that this is a brand new process for ICAP implementation. This is a graduation requirement that is brand new, and only 2 of your classes right now might even be participating in 9th grade and your sophomores as well. And so these are a couple of milestones that you might shoot for within each grade level. And so there's an entire list and it starts with the 6th grade. I, of course, just pulled out a couple of the pieces there, but it is available in the toolkit and I will definitely show that a little bit later on in the presentation as well. So now we'll talk a little bit about implementation. So when we started the ICAP implementation process, we were able to send out a survey to about 400 plus K-12 high schools in the state. And what we wanted to learn was how was ICAP implementation going? Now, of course, this was pre-COVID. So, take this, what it was as much of a normal school year as we could possibly have had then. And what you'll find is that when we sent this survey out, we sent it out about the same time last year. So maybe a little bit before Christmas or Thanksgiving, I'm sorry, in November. And what we learned was that about 84% of our school districts that completed the survey had done at least one Icap activity. We also learned that about 30% of the students had already updated their courses, about 27% updated post-secondary workforce goals, and about 14% had not started yet. Now, I say that I like to show this because I know that there are some districts that, sort of might panic and think, oh my goodness, my kids haven't done a single activity yet, or we're not all the way through. Just to show you that even if you've completed at least one activity with your students, you're lock in step with many of the districts where they were last year. So understanding completely that we are in very different times given the time of COVID, but we do have resources that have been very helpful to many districts during this time, especially since ICAP is or the tools that you're using for ICAP are virtual tools. So that's been something that's been a really big win, I think, for a lot of us moving forward. So I wanted to show you a little bit of the student feedback from last year. And so we picked this group here. You'll notice that we grabbed this March of this year, but this would have been from the students that participated last fall. And so what you'll see is one of our tools that students are using is OK Career Guide. And so it's Cooter. And you're seeing this career assessment or interest assessment results for our students. And so the number one interest is education and training. So many of our students are still very, very interested in education and training. And I can tell you historically for the last few years, that has been the case for many of our students. And so that hasn't really waned at all. What I think has really been a change has been the law and public safety. I think we hadn't seen much of a big jump there in a long time. And so about 15% there. And then of course, human services there, which would include mental health counselors and maybe even nurses and things of that nature. So lots of careers where students are interested in serving other people. And I think that this data, is something that is very helpful for schools to take a look at because it does help you sort of plan what type of activities or speakers that you might be interested in inviting to your classrooms or connecting students to. You can run reports like this for your particular school, so it doesn't have to be a state level report. I'm sure if you have been using online tools via ICAP probably for about a year or two now, you're probably aware of the process of doing that. But if not, we will get into that a little later. So a couple of ways that we did learn that schools were implementing ICAP last year were via brown bag lunch specials. This is really a title. It's not specifically where, someone brings brown bag lunch specials. These are really sort of just mini sessions, mini career sessions. And so employers would either visit the school during a class period in person or virtually and be able to speak with students and answer questions about their career and gauge sort of their interest and talk about their journeys. Post-secondary workforce readiness days was probably the most popular. These were the senior next step conferences that you may have seen shared. And so these conferences, for those that aren't familiar, would be arranged or through a partner, a community partner, or a school district. Specifically, I know we have someone from Mustang on the call. And so Mustang Public Schools did a senior next step conference where they partnered with a church for a space, and those students were able to go to that space and attend many workshops that would prepare them, that were themed to prepare them for life after high school. So they would have someone there that was talking about renting an apartment or basic maintenance on a car, someone to talk about school loans, and of course, different colleges and career tech organizations there to talk about programs and the process for applying. So really their first opportunity to go to somewhat of a professional conference. So they were dressed appropriately. They had an opening speaker, and then they split up into mini sessions. What will be interesting this year is that some districts have elected to try to do this virtually. And so I will try to keep you all posted and see how that goes. A virtual conference will be very different since many of them were face-to-face, but it does allow for a little bit of an ease for transportation and getting a location. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. Other districts have used advisory class for Icap implementation. I believe that's probably the most popular way to do that as of today. And so what that means is that about 3 days a week for about 20 minutes, the students will meet with a particular advisor teacher, and they will use that time to work on their Icap process. And so if that means having a speaker, if that means completing an Icap activity in their online tool, whatever they have planned for that particular day, they use that time to carve out for students to future plan. And it's been working quite well so far. The last is providing classroom guidance with the school counselor. So a counselor visiting a core class. I think probably the most popular was an English class, and they would visit with that class once a semester with every class. So every freshman got to participate, and they would use that period to complete Icap activities. And so those are the most popular ways that, according to the survey, that we saw Icap implementation take place last year. So I wanted to show you a couple of resources we have here, and I want to go quickly because I want to leave time for questions. And so what you're seeing here, and let me know if you can see this. Are you all able to see? You should see a little girl in blue. If you see it, perfect. So this is a Icap toolkit. And so this toolkit, I'll say, is one of 3 toolkits that we've put together. The Icap toolkit that we have here was written by school counselors from about 8 different high schools and middle schools in the state. And what they did was they arranged every single resource that you might use if you were putting together an Icap program from scratch. So they tried their best to anticipate any questions that you might have for implementing Icap. So they have an introduction to Icap, many of your resources here talking about the attainment as well. And so lots of different resources that they have here. If you are a school district who is wanting to start completely from scratch, we have an Icap, maybe we do some things, but we don't do it that well, and I want to start completely over, I would recommend starting with this Icap toolkit and using that to really plan your process. We have everything here from the Icap plan, from the definitions, a different see here, your different career stages. So awareness, exploration, training, and action. And then we have it separated into 5 parts. So part 1, of course, getting started and forming an Icap team, all the way down to part 5, which is the evaluation as well. And so lots of different resources for getting started, what those first steps are. I would definitely recommend the Icap toolkit for anything, especially if Icap is new to you. But if you are wanting to start over, I would recommend the Icap toolkit. Next, we have Icap implementation examples. And so these examples came from a pilot process that we did for Icap starting in 2007 and ended in 2019. We piloted the Icap process with about 70 school sites or 70 school districts, I'm sorry. And so through those school districts, we learned about 3 emerging themes for implementing Icap, and we cleverly named them A, B, and C. And so what we put these together is for districts who might already be doing some things related to Icap, but they don't really have a structured framework. And so it gives you an opportunity to take a look at each of these 3 options here and see which one best fits your school district and your needs and adopt that plan as your Icap framework. And so it starts by just explaining real quickly what Icap is and what strategy you're choosing. So option A, of course, provides opportunities for intentional sequence of activities for students. And so it goes very much in order. And so it's a little bit more open, it's not as strict in terms of which activities you're going to do, but it gives you an opportunity to say the activities we're doing fit in awareness, the activities we're doing fit in exploration. And so you're able to just sort of plug and play. It does tell you a little bit about some delivery models that you might use. And then, of course, tells you a little bit about your online tools. So that is really for districts who are doing a lot of things related to college and career readiness, or ICAP like things. And you don't necessarily need to start all the way over, but you would be helpful to have an actual framework to go off of. And then lastly, our Icap activity toolkits. These are really, really helpful, I think, for districts who are maybe not prepared to start putting together a framework quite yet. Maybe they have several students who are in several different places, and they need to have some activities that tell them exactly what to do month by month. If you're carrying a lot of things, in your positions and things like that, I would recommend using these ICAP activity toolkits. What we did include here was just a little information about our students in our state climate here. And so what we know is that according to our Employment Security Commission, youth about 16 to 19 years of age have an unemployment rate of 11.5%, while the state unemployment rate is 3.2%. Now, the students that they are referring to, they're 16 to 19, these are students who are not enrolled in school. They have maybe one or two barriers to completing school or even becoming employed. So homelessness, they have young children, disabilities, or they have a juvenile or criminal record. They are often referred to as opportunity youth. This toolkit, I would say, is probably one of the most popular among some of our alt ed programs. I get more questions about this than I've ever had, especially since last year presenting. And so this goes through and tells you the different activities to do month by month. So of course, this being October would be about building a financial strategy, talks of course about FAFSA and the financial planning opportunities. It even explains how to reach out to potential partners to talk about financial planning for your students. And so we have toolkits or little mini activity toolkits for each month. This is October, November's toolkit. You would have one for December, and it would go all the way until May as well. And so this is a very helpful process here. And we do have the link that would take you to all of these toolkits if you are of interest. And so now I want to talk to you a little bit about some of our virtual resources that we have available. I know that many of you are juggling meeting with students in person, distance learning, and providing some of these virtual resources online. And so career planning, goal setting, college exploration, and academic planning, and of course, work-based learning. And so we have a COVID FAQ guide for staying college and career ready. And this is for educators and families. We have a couple of low tech resources. So those surveys, those college career cluster and personal interest surveys, you can click these links, and these are paper version of those surveys that you can make available to students if you so choose. We also have a virtual college Careertech guide. And I won't click on these for the interest of time, but these are to be used for any student who is interested in visiting a college or career tech. Many of our college and career tech are providing virtual visits, and I've included a link here that shows you where to go. If you click that link, it will take you to the list of all of our post-secondary programs who are offering virtual visits. And they've been very useful. They've even offered college and career fairs virtually. They're all free. You just have to sign up for whichever session you like. And those are available to any students anytime, and they are also recorded. And so lots of opportunities for kids to still engage virtually and on their time and on demand. We also have a few resources here that talk about virtual work-based learning. Now, I won't go over these because I know you guys have a really good session coming up with Chelsea next month, but we do have these resources available here if you're interested in engaging those. Many of these sessions, these virtual work-based learning sessions, featured professional speakers that were talking about their experiences on the job and the steps it took to secure those positions. If you're interested in any of those, they have recorded links here that she has provided here. She also has provided some internship FAQs available as well. We have other resources later on that talk about different organizations and how they have different resources on their website able to help connect students virtually. And so I want to make sure that we do know that those are available to you. You can find that just by clicking in our presentation here. This is a hot link, so you can click that and it will take you right to those virtual resources. A couple other resources that we're really excited about is we have a virtual online tool called OSDE Connect. And this particular tool allows you as an educator to engage with other educators like yourselves in different virtual communities. And these communities are topic based. So we have a community for college and career readiness. We have the instructions here for joining said community. And so you would click this link and you would enroll or add this college and career readiness community process, and then click redeem, and you have now joined with other educators like yourselves to talk through different strategies, trade secrets, and things of that nature. So very, very easy to do. And like Peter said, this will be made available to you all, and all of these links are hot, so you can click those and start by making your, I think it's a 3-step process for even making your profile. We also have another module for community connections. This is for connecting with community members or business and industry leaders, learning about different internships or apprenticeships or even virtual opportunities in your area. So no more having to sort of search or maybe I know somebody. Now you have an opportunity to join a virtual network of other professionals who are interested in connecting with schools like yourselves and start to make that connection. Chelsea Hunt will talk more detail about the work-based learning virtual module, but it is the same premise where you are able to go in and learn more about work-based learning and setting that up for your school as well. So I want to talk a little bit about a project that we are doing and some of the things that we have learned along the way through Icap. And so first, I do want to participate in just a short activity. So I'm going to put this link in the chat for you all. And hopefully I can, there we go. Okay, so I just put a link in the chat. If you will click that, and then we'll do an activity. Okay. You guys are fast. You might have done this before. And so what I'm doing is I am just asking you all just a few questions. And if you wouldn't mind coming over here and making a sticky note, and then you will click, put in yes or no and save. Once you do that, you can drag your sticky note to either side, yes or no, okay? So my first question is, you are I'm gonna put those over. Have you ever been a first generation college student or career tech student? So were you a first generation college or career tech student? Lots of yeses. Little even, sort of, okay. Yeah. I'm gonna give you just about 10 more seconds. Okay. Okay, so lots, a little split, a little bit, maybe a little bit more no's than yeses. So yeah, first generation college student or career tech student. So just post-secondary and they're all together. Awesome, awesome. Still have a few joining us. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one. I earned at least one D or F my first semester in college or career tech. I won't tell, but no lying, be honest. One D or F my first semester in college or career tech. And so same premise, you'll come over, make your sticky note. We got some honest people here.
If you can't see the question, you may need to change the, at the top, the little arrow, you may need to change the screen, participants.
And so I earned at least one D or F my first semester in college or career tech. Okay, we have some people joining. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. Oop, that was probably on the other one. You've attended college or career tech and left once before graduating. So this means I've stopped out is what they call this. So if you were attended college or career tech and left for a little time, went back to complete your program, that's what we mean. Okay, I have a couple more people joining. Looks like typing, finishing up. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So the reason I ask those questions is because those are some of the most common barriers for a student to persist in any post-secondary. Earning a D or less in their first semester of college, being a first generation college student, and even stopping out of college or career tech and within any time and returning back. Decreases your chances of being successful. But obviously you all have done that, which makes you perfect advocates for programs like Icap and Icap planning. And so when we talk about Icap, we're really talking about building hope and resiliency for a lot of students. For you to be successful after encountering at least one of those barriers, you had to at least have some sort of hope and of course, resiliency to be able to get back up and continue. And so this quote here is from Ohio, the Ohio University, which is hope is the single best predictor of, well-being for both children and adults. Hope scores for children are often predictive of attendance, graduation rates, lower suspension rates, and more. And we know this. And so I want to always put that there, because I know that, we talked a little bit earlier about college and career readiness success metrics. And those are important success metrics. Those are important things to look for students. But we can't discount the fact that students who have hope and resiliency, those are also very big predictive measures. And for a lot of students, that the difference between having hope is knowing that someone else was able to overcome things. And so when we look at students and we think that, they're struggling now in high school, they're probably going to struggle in, college or career tech as well. You being able to share your story about that D or F that you received in your first semester is a big deal. Sharing that you dropped out of college and had to go back and finish is a huge deal. And also sharing that no one in my family had gone to college or career tech. I had to figure it out on my own too, is also a big deal. And those are really important pieces for students as well. And so you've learned probably a lot about adverse childhood experiences, so ACEs. But you may not have learned about PACEs. And so those stands for protective and compensatory experiences. So the way these work, and what they were learned, or what we learned, is that when students have experienced any form of ACEs, if they're able to experience any PACEs or positive reinforcement, they are able to decrease the effect that ACEs will have on them later in life. And so it doesn't cure any of the trauma that they've experienced, but it does give them a fighting chance. It gives them hope, and it builds hope and resiliency. And so here are a couple of examples of what that is. So individual form of PACEs. So strong relationships with peers and adults, involvement in organizations, coping experiences, self-identity, and adapting. Of course, family, informed caregiving, emotional support, physical care, stability, and then of course, community, education, of course, policy, services, and opportunities for youth and involvement. These are all things that, a lot of our schools, of course, work to provide our students. But these are also things that are extremely important when you're ready to have a conversation about ICAP. If a student doesn't feel safe, or if a student doesn't feel as if they're valued, or they have any opportunity or chance or hope for being successful in the future, a question or a conversation about ICAP really just kind of seems ridiculous to that student. And so we always want to make sure that we include those things. Now, we are participating in an Icap Hope study for about 5 or 6 school districts, where we are learning about the connection between Icap and hope and resiliency. These districts are asked to measure attendance, student engagement, academic achievement and growth, and student discipline, having taken a ICAP assessment or a pre-ICAP assessment, going through the ICAP process, and then of course allowing us to measure these deliverables afterwards. And so we're really excited about this, excited to learn more about this correlation. When we were participating in the Icap pilot study early on, we were learning from school districts that many of these things were positively affected once they implemented Icap. And so we were very interested in learning more about that, if that was just to that particular site, or if that was something that we would be able to see statewide. So really excited about that. So a couple of other resources that we do have is, I want to sort of take you a little bit through our website. We have a new work-based learning resources. Chelsea will, of course, be sharing those. She does have a one-pager that is available, but I wanted to make sure to include that just in case you needed it now, between now and her presentation. And so we do have resources such as these that have sample activities for work-based learning, and it does have some definitions here as well. We do also have some strong connections with our post-secondary partners. Some resources that are connected to colleges, of course, our Careertech resources, and then I do have some examples for those next step conferences that we talked about a little bit earlier. For the interest of time, I won't click on these links because you guys will have access to these, But it's important to note that Icap is not just something that K-12 is using. Many of our post-secondary partners being our universities and colleges and career techs as well as industry, had a hand in participating in Icap early on and are very excited for the process and the work that's being done. I did include a video here from Union High School. They had a specific career fair for their alternative education students. And so if you are interested in checking that out, we do have the link there that is available. And so that will be there for later use. It's a little buried, I think, on the website. So I wanted to make sure to pull that out so you guys could take a look at that resource. It was very well done. A few more resources that we do have are, of course, our website. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that. And so here is our website, our OK Edge site. And this is all things college and career ready. We've added several resources here, probably in the last few months, especially given COVID. But I do want to take you all here to our K-12 space. Most recently, you've received a email about our electronic service, our transcript service. And so if you're interested in taking a look at those, learning more, we do have 2 webinars that are available on November 12th and November 19th. And you can use this page to learn a little bit more about that. We do have, of course, several resources related to Icap planning. An intro video here featuring students that are talking about Icap and what that's been able to do for them and their school experience. New COVID resources that are here as well that are updated, and then several of our one-pagers that talk a little bit more detail about Icap as well. I'll stop here and I will click on our Icap FAQs because I think this is something that's really important. We've pulled out several frequently asked questions for you to take a look at, of course, involving what is Icap, anywhere from that to legislation, talks about, of course, the process, minimum components. We do have some resources for students that are for transitional plans as well. So the difference, and we have a document that was put together by Department of Students with Disabilities as well, and several other resources and ways that you all can get engaged. And so that is our FAQ that is available on our Icap implementation page as well. And then I want to come here to our college and career educators. For those of you who have partnerships with post-secondary partners, so those post-secondary partners meaning maybe businesses or career tech sites or even colleges in your area, these are really good sites that sort of let you know some activities that you might do to formalize that partnership or be able to use that and leverage Icap as a tool for that. For career tech specifically, they were able to put together several resources for their career curriculum for students. They do, of course, have an online tool called OK Career Guide. This is a free online tool that many of our districts are currently using to keep track of Icap. Oklahoma is very lucky to have 2 free online tools, one being OK Career Guide and the other OK College Start, and I'll show that in a moment. But OK Career Guide is a very useful tool. It's completely interactive and can be used for a classroom for different lessons and being able to keep track of your Icap process. It's been very helpful, especially in the time of COVID, because it is completely virtually and online, and it does keep track of all of the activities that students are doing as well. Yes. Okay. We do have some financial aid resources, some that are specifically connected to the Careertech as well. So I want to pull this up because I'm not sure that many have seen this yet. But Careertech put together a document specifically to use for applying for FAFSA. What many people don't realize is that you can apply your FAFSA funds to Careertech. So you don't just use FAFSA and use it at a college. It is also used towards Careertech. Many of you who are familiar with Careertech many have what's called next step scholarships. And so those scholarships are for students who may have graduated from a school district in their serving area, and they have until a couple of years to complete one certification, and they can do so for free. But the way that a student can qualify for that is they must complete their FAFSA. They want them to complete their FAFSA first so that they can use said FAFSA funds, and then they, of course, apply any remaining aid to get rid of that balance. So we want students to complete their FAFSA so they can take advantage of those opportunities. What you see here is the particular site. So Autry Career Tech Center, here's their phone number, and here is their FAFSA code. So very, very easy for you to use and put that together for students, to just kind of a one-touch opportunity for them. So they put that together specifically for us to add to our site. We do have some videos that are some examples. You have your senior conference center, so that next step. And then we also have a signing day that Canadian Valley does offer for students who are signing to enroll into Careertech after high school. So very big event, so giving you some great ideas. And then here we have some interactive maps for Careertech districts. We know that, many of you that have students who are already at their partnered school districts, so they may already be familiar with the programs that they have at Careertech, but some students do not. And so if you're trying to plan for life after high school, and understanding that maybe I can't get all my Careertech courses done while I'm in high school, maybe there's no room or something like that, gives you an opportunity to look at the programs down to a particular career field of interest. So all of the programs that are related to aerospace and defense at a Careertech are listed here. And so you have an opportunity to look at these different career clusters, and you can find out where they are. So here's Choctaw-Nakoma Park. So they have a STEM program. I have all the information about the school, the website of the school, and then the Careertech program. So if I am a parent, or if I am one of your students and I'm trying to find out, an opportunity for me to either participate while I'm in high school or shortly after high school, I can sort of do that planning. And so the best way to think about this is, if you were to help a student start planning for college, they would be able to go to a website or a map and find out where all the colleges are in the state, right? And learn about their programs. We wanted to create a very similar experience for students who were looking at Careertech as an option as well. And so we did that by using these interactive maps here available. And that is, once again, on the website. Somebody sent a question asking where. So right here under college and career educators, and you would go to K-12 and Careertech partnerships as well. Okay. Excellent. Perfect. All right, and so I'm going to go to higher education partnerships as well. And so I talked a little bit about some of the other tools that are offered. So OK College Start as well is a tool that is used for ICAP planning. OK Career Guide, OK College Start, same tools, very similar build, but they just have a different design. So many of our school districts use one or the other for their districts. And so if you're interested in some career advising resources and how to work with a college or regional college, I would definitely direct them here and start having those conversations. We do have some videos that talk about, of course, some success stories as well. And then most recently, we have a reducing college remediation course here, the College Career Ready Math course. We have a video that talks a little bit about it, but what this class is really for is for students who may not have scored very high on their ACT and the math portion, but are planning to go on to college. To avoid students having to take a remedial class, they would take this College Career Math Ready course. That course has been known to raise a student's ACT score quite a bit and be able to avoid a remediation class. For those of you who've gone through college, you know that taking a remediation class can be costly because sometimes it is not covered under financial aid, and it also is not count towards their degree. So it's just a course, a zero-level course that they have to take, and so it's just, I won't say a waste of time, but it is time that they've had to spend with that as well. And so anytime that you can avoid having to take that course is of course better. So we do have this resource available here if you want to learn a little bit more about that, or maybe your district already offers that. It's definitely a resource for many students as well.
Hey, Marissa, we have
Yeah.
about 6 minutes, and we have a comment that King
Sure.
in Marshall County, and they don't participate in the tech, any of tech programs, and we know up in the Panhandle. Do you have any recommendations for those schools? Maybe a career tech center that's closer, that's across state lines, that could be, you know, cooperate or something like that?
Sure. So what a school district, they have a couple of options. If you are interested in participating in career tech, some of your career tech, neighboring career tech sites. So if we were to go back to that website and whoops, now, well, I won't go back because I think it's kind of messing us up. But if you were to look on those interactive maps, some local career techs that are neighboring career tech sites will accept your students. Of course, the school districts who have relationships with that career tech do have first priority. However, post-secondary career tech is also a viable option for students, which is exactly why we put those maps together, because not just because you have a relationship with a career tech doesn't necessarily mean that there is room even for a student to participate. Or in your case, they don't have a career tech partnership with that particular school district. So students do have the opportunity to still participate in a career tech post-secondary. It doesn't have to be connected to their high school. They may not be able to participate while they are currently high school students, but planning for career tech, just like you would plan for college after high school, is still a viable option. And it does allow you to apply for FAFSA and still be able to receive aid like anyone else. So that would be my first conversation with some neighboring career techs, just like you would have with a college that you'd be interested in attending. As for career techs across the state line, those will be up to and that individual school district and that career tech to have some sort of agreement. I know some school districts do have agreements with some career techs that are in the Kansas area. So I believe maybe Jay Public Schools has a relationship with a Kansas career tech site that's across the state line as well. But they have done those by putting up MOUs, I'm sorry, between both of those particular sites.
Okay, thank you for addressing that.
Yeah.
I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Okay.
Hmm?
Well, great. I thank you all so much for having me. And I will share this presentation with Petra afterwards, who will share this with you. Does have my contact information in there. So if you think of any questions afterwards, please don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email.
Thank you, Marissa. Do you guys have any questions specifically for Marissa? I will share that this population, the work that you all do, definitely it's part of what we do in Alt Ed, which is career tracking. I mean, having them have a graduation plan, a career plan, that's part of what we do. And so these additional resources, please go to the SDE website to access those additional resources for your students. And so as we're into the evaluation system, you know, the time that we're doing evaluation, those are things that when you look at the checklist that says, when you're monitoring their graduation plan, is the student involved? Icap helps you do those things where you can document as well. Because remember, we know we get students and they want to stay with us. But if they happen to transition back into the regular classroom setting, we don't want them to miss a beat. So know what program your district is using and what online tool the students log in. It's a way to give them extra resources, help them be engaged in tracking their credits, and things like that. Again, next month, Chelsea Hunt will be on with us to talk about work-based learning and internships and things like that. So if you have your questions, you can send those to us to make sure that she, hits those with you, how to assess your community for opportunities and things like that. So we appreciate you guys joining us. If no one has any questions, we appreciate you for joining us, Marisa. We will give you back 1 minute.
Thank you all so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
Thank
I'm not sure if I leave this, is it gonna cancel the meeting since I'm still the host? Do you want to take over as host so I cannot?
I think
And you will, and ladies, y'all will share the PowerPoint that has your contact information, because yes, I got a lot of questions, but too many for right here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Y'all have a good day.
You too.